And we're live.
With Paranormal Spirits, place we come to get our booze on. We talk about the booze, the things that go bump in the night. And I get to do that with all my booze. I am Mike Black. I am here with Alyssa Black, my wife.
Hello.
And across the table from me, I have the beautiful and talented John Burkett.
I don't know how to say it in French.
I was going to say, where's the...
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Hello.
There we go. Bonjour.
So in case you didn't figure it out, we're celebrating Mardi Gras.
Mardi Gras. Mm-hmm.
Got our beads on. I won't tell you what I showed to get them. John, what'd you show?
Nothing.
Alyssa, what'd you show to get your beads?
No, that's a secret.
That's a secret.
What is it? Laissez la bon temps brûlé.
Laissez les bon temps brûlés.
Yeah, laissez le bon temps brûlé.
Yeah, whatever.
Let the good times roll.
Ça c'est bon.
C'est bon, chef. All righty. So tonight we're going to start off like we do every night that we record, and that's with the BOOZE that we drink.
I got a good one today.
And so across from me, John is drinking, I believe, Wild Turkey Rare Breed.
Yep.
Like completely leaded, foolproof.
116 proof.
116.7 or something like that. Alyssa is drinking Tears of the Gods.
Lagavulin
16. And I am drinking Tequila Ocho Blanco. Sipping it as we tell our spooky stories.
Tequila 8.
And John has a story for us tonight. And John, what's your story about?
The LaLaurie Mansion in New Orleans.
in celebration of
Quite appropriate for
Mardi Gras.
Nolans and Mardi Gras and all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Before we do that, let's talk about the places you can find us. If you're listening to a podcast right now, you can find us on YouTube and see all of our silly get-ups with our masks and our beads and
Racerback tees.
Racerback tees.
Dracula capes.
All the crazy stuff that we do here on the podcast. And that's at 3B Paranormal Spirits. If you want to go check us out on TikTok, Instagram, or X, you can go to paranormal_spirits.
Just X, not X Hamster.
Not X Hamster. That's a totally different website.
Different website.
No, X. You know, like used to be Twitter X, that one. Yeah. And I'm going to put it right here, and it'll be up above us, and you can't see it right now, John. That's in post-production. So I know he looked, but so you can find us there. You can go to our website that I just renewed today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has it been a year already?
Yeah, it's been a year
Yay.
for the website at
Wow.
least. We hadn't been putting up podcasts yet.
The domain, at least.
Yeah, the domain. I had to renew it. And that is paranormal-spirits.com. Just like it sounds, has a little dash mark in there. You can go there and you can go out to YouTube or Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, which is Booze with Benefits, BOOS, Booze. And you can also go to Boozy's Boutique. And at Boozy's Boutique, you can pick up all the cool swag that we have, like dad caps and trucker caps, racerback tees and regular tees that have funny sayings on them, and coffee mugs and coffee cups and koozie covers and
covers.
I'm sorry, we don't have koozie covers yet. We have
Koozies.
Boozy's koozies.
I've been pushing.
I totally did that on
I've
purpose.
been pushing for the
I
koozie
know.
covers.
I totally did that on purpose.
Think of just
sounded
like
funny.
a tea bag, with.
You want a tea bag?
Well, not for me to
Oh.
sell.
Oh yeah, okay. Like,
Little,
tea bag, like underwear, drawers,
panties
butt floss.
with this on the thicker part in the front.
The thicker part.
The eye patch part.
The eye patch.
The cooter cover.
Yeah. Oh, now we've gone down that path.
Koozie cover.
Oh. All right. So we've made all our jokes. We've done all our plugs, and we know what we're drinking now. So let's get into the BOOS. And John can tell us about Madame LaLaurie.
LaLaurie.
LaLaurie?
Y'all didn't take French
Or
in high school, did you?
LaLaurie.
LaLaurie, that's...
Whatever.
For what we
Yeah.
say around here.
French things are hard to say,
They are.
except for baguette and,
And French fries.
and croissant
Croissant.
or and croissant sandwich.
When you hear croissant by actual French people, though, it's quite impressive.
Croissant.
Like I speak watch French. I can say je l'écoute. And
And what do you call that little?
breguet,
What do you call the decorations on the dot? Guilloche?
guilloche.
Is it guilloche?
And then what do you call the thing that they used to put in the pocket watch to keep it level all the type of movement?
A battery?
No, it was invented by Louis Breguet. So the tourbillon.
Oh, a tourbillon.
What's that one?
yeah.
What is the really expensive brand? Starts with a P.
Patek Philippe?
Patek Philippe.
Yeah, is that not French?
Mm-hmm.
I guess that would be. Yeah.
I think he's
Or
French,
Swiss.
It's French.
Yeah.
So in Switzerland, it's predominantly French, or there is a German-speaking area of Switzerland, like it's where IWC is in Glashut.
Right, but most of it is.
Most of the
They,
brand names are
they
French.
speak French, don't they? Isn't it the same
There's
language?
not a Swiss
Steak? No, they speak. There's a Swiss steak and a Swiss cheese,
Swiss cake roll.
Swiss cake roll. But,
So let's start the booze off with our traditional cilantro.
Slancha.
salute.
There you go.
I don't.
I don't know what the French say.
I don't know. Probably something arrogant.
Cheers.
Anywho, so
Santé.
it's like sláinte.
Yeah, apparently. I'm pronouncing it right. I don't know. I didn't take French.
I don't either.
Already.
So, shrouded in mystery and haunted tales, the LaLaurie Mansion stands as a historic and infamous landmark in the heart of New Orleans' French Quarter. Its dark history weaves a tapestry of horror, cruelty, and the supernatural, making it a focal point for those intrigued by the macabre. There's another French word, macabre. You know what drives me nuts? When
Macabre?
Macabre. It's macabre. I mean, anyway,
So what they put the R and the E on there for if they're not going to use it?
I don't know. There's always silent letters at the end of French words.
Sometimes English words, too, to be honest.
That's true, yeah. Anyway, so the mansion is located at 1140 Royal Street. It was once the residence of Madame Delphine LaLaurie, a prominent socialite in early 19th century New Orleans. Madame LaLaurie was known for her beauty and her charm, which masked a sinister secret that would come to light in the most shocking manner. Marie Delphine McCarty, she was born in New Orleans, Spanish Louisiana, Spanish at the time, in 1787, is one of 5 children. Her father, excuse me on this one, I'm going to say it the American way, Louis Bartholomew McCarty, had brought the family to New Orleans from Ireland around 1730. Her mother was Marie Jean Lerabal, French lady, known as the widow Lecomte. The only reason I know how to say Comte is because of the cheese, as her marriage to Louis McCarty was her second.
And what was her name again?
The widow Lecomte.
I was wanting to hear the one before that.
Marie Jean L'Érable or L'Érable.
Oh, okay.
Arable.
Okay.
There's an apostrophe between the L and the E. Now, both of Delphine's parents were prominent members of the city's European Creole community. Her uncle by marriage, I can say this one because it's Spanish, Esteban Rodriguez Miro, was governor of the Spanish-American provinces of Louisiana and Florida from 1785 to 1791. And her cousin, Augustine de McCarty, do they throw the Irish last names and start putting French? Yeah, was mayor of New Orleans from 1850 to 1820. Delphine was married 3 times. She was, she liked the men.
She was an alley cat.
Right, but her first
back
marriage,
then.
her first marriage was at the age of 13, which by modern sensibilities you would find quite disturbing. It was to a high-ranking Spanish officer named Don Ramon de Lopez y Angulo.
Pedo.
Oh, stop it.
Yeah, I mean,
seriously.
he would be
Now.
in jail, and yeah. Now he died in Havana 4 years later. While they were on a stop on their way to Spain, he had been called back to the Spanish court, and
Probably for child diddling.
well, so Louisiana was going through a lot of shifts at this time. It was French, then it was Spanish, then it was French again, and then with the Louisiana Purchase, it became United States.
Right.
So there was a lot of transition going on at this time. Anyway, so he dies in Havana while she was pregnant with her first child. Now, I put this in here because this is such a crazy name. Marie Borja Delphine Lopez y Angulo de la Candelaria. I put that on a driver's license.
You do, and you will clean it up.
Imagine trying to fit that on it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So pick one or two. Maybe three.
Just all
but
of
not
the
all of them.
names. So she married her second husband, who was a prominent banker named Jean Blanc. That one's easy to say. In 1808, when she was about 21 years old. And Delphine had 4 children with Blanc, 3 daughters and a son. Didn't put any of their names in here because it's all just a bunch of Jacques and Maries. It's all the same. Blanc died in 1816, leaving her a widow one more time. And then in 1825, she married again, this time to a local physician, 15 years her junior.
What's wrong with that?
She was a cougar.
Oh, that's true. I guess the roles are reversed.
Yeah, reversed roles. Yeah, she married a much younger man. His name was, I'm saying it American way, Leonard Louis Nicholas LaLaurie. So that's where the LaLaurie comes. From
From the young buck.
from her young
buck.
her young stud, yes. Who may have been a real creep actually, but we'll see. In 1831, she bought the property at 1140 Royal Street and had a 2-story mansion built there, complete with attached slave quarters. In 1832, Delphine petitioned the court for a separation from bed and board of her husband, which she claimed he had treated her in such a manner as to render their living together unsupportable. But apparently this didn't last because Dr. LaLaurie was home on the fateful night of April 10th, 1834.
I assume by Dr. LaLaurie, he was a doctor.
Yeah, physician. I said physician. Yeah,
I'm sorry, I missed that.
She married
My
a
bad.
young doctor.
Smart.
So Delphine LaLaurie was not only creating a reputation as a beautiful, wealthy socialite who threw lavish parties and galas and balls and whatever you want to call them, she walked among the New Orleans elite, but she was also gaining a reputation for something else that was rumored to be happening behind the grand facade of the LaLaurie mansion. Hidden in the recesses of its chambers, Madame LaLaurie committed acts of heinous cruelty against her slaves.
Heinous means really bad, right?
Oh.
With an H.
Yeah.
Yeah, not...
No, okay. Not the other.
I mean, yeah, probably that too. But once a neighbor witnessed a young slave girl named Leah jump to her death from the roof of the mansion while being pursued by Delphine with a whip.
Oh, my God.
And the way the story kind of turns out is that Madame LaLaurie had asked her to brush her hair, and she hit a knot. You know what?
In LaLaurie's hair?
In LaLaurie's hair, at which point she became enraged, began whipping her with a whip she kept around with metal tips.
Oh, my God.
And the girl ran away from her, ran upstairs, went to the roof of the, at this time, 2-story building. It's 3 stories now, but jumped off to her death. This was
Bless her heart.
This was witnessed by people. Now, New Orleans, unlike many other places in the South, New Orleans had laws against the mistreatment, physical punishment, neglect, anything of slaves. They actually had laws against it there. And this was witnessed by people who saw this. The authorities were called and an investigation occurred. Excuse me. And the family was found guilty and charged $300 and forced to sell 9 slaves.
Out of.
How many did she have?
Well, is on record at some point there was the 20s, but then there's appears to have been some that weren't. That there weren't any papers on.
Okay, I'm confused because she lives in the city, right?
It's a big house. There's a yard. Plus, her family owned a plantation as well.
So, did these slaves work at the plantation and then were quartered there, or these were her?
They were
20s?
quartered in the house. There was many quartered in the house.
But if she had upwards of 20, my God,
It's a
what
big
did she
house.
have for 'em?
Well, not all of them were seen all the time. There's
Carry on.
Yeah.
Carry on.
So, unfortunately for those 9 slaves, they were purchased by a wealthy family member of hers and returned to the household.
Oh, my
course.
God.
See, she wasn't just wealthy; she was very wealthy, especially for
She
the
was
time.
untouchable wealthy, evidently.
I mean, there is a point to where money can't buy you out of stuff. But her estimated net worth in 1834 was $3 million, which in today's money is over $100 million.
Good gracious.
I was going to say.
So she's rich.
Yeah.
She was a very wealthy woman.
$3 million now would be nice.
Yeah, I mean, that's enough to maybe retire for older guys like me or Mike and be able to be okay.
Do probably anything we wanted for the rest of our life. With
I
$1
mean,
million.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Depends on what your
Yeah,
taste.
like $100 million lottery would be better.
Oh, my God.
I'm gonna take $3 million and run with it. To be honest, shoot. I'm
So,
not picky.
Well,
Adios, Mexico.
I don't know. Maybe not there. So whispers of abuse circulated around town. You know, people would see her about. She was very kind to her slaves in public, but people did notice that they appeared emaciated, sickly, and somewhat. I want to say downtrodden, but that seems like something stupid to say about someone who is a slave.
Right.
But you know what I'm saying? Something was off. And people would
Like
notice it at her parties as well. And
Like a dog you've beaten down and they're cowed.
exactly. So, on the night of April 10th, 1834, the truth was exposed. Madame LaLaurie was having one of her famous parties, and a fire broke out at the mansion. Well, you don't want to let a good party go to waste, so she took the guests and everyone went outside onto Royal Street with their cocktails, and they locked the door behind them.
Oh goodness.
The fire brigade shows up. I don't know what they called them back then, but these were all, they
Fire
didn't have
department.
professional fire departments like they do now. But the bucket brigade or whatever showed up. And it was being led by a prominent judge with some power who was in the fire brigade. And they saw there was LaLaurie and Dr. LaLaurie and guests and stuff, but they didn't see any of her servants. And inquired about it. Did they get out? Did everyone get out? To which they were told it was none of their business.
Oh my goodness.
So the judge, fire brigade attempts to enter the home. Doors are locked. They demand the keys. They were refused the keys. So he said, "Kick it down, boys." So they kicked the door down. So, expecting to just find some scared slaves, trying to help them escape from the fire, what they actually found, nothing could have prepared them for. They discovered the fire had started in the kitchen. When they went to put it out in the kitchen, they discovered a 70-year-old slave woman chained to the stove, like a leg iron, chained to the stove. And it turns out she had been the one who had set the fire. She told her she wasn't dead. She was alive, and she had set the fire in an attempt to unalive herself, because burning to death, as she told him, was better than spending another day in the house.
Oh my God.
Gosh.
She also told them, the rescuers, that the ones that go in the attic never come back. So the rescuers headed to the attic. Found another locked door, battered it in, kicked it in. And this is where we got to throw out the trigger warning here, because what they found is
unsettling,
pretty unbelievable. And some of it may not be true, but at least half of it is. Mm-hmm. Enough of it is that it's bad. So one of the first things they found, allegedly, was a male and female slave chained to a bed with their genitals had been removed and then crudely sewn on the other one.
No.
Oh my.
In a sort of crude horror movie.
Like the caterpillar thing or something.
Gender swap. Yes, this is a human centipede level stuff.
Yeah, centipede, not caterpillar. Yeah. Sorry. Jesus.
They found at least one male slave chained to the wall like this, with barbed wire around the wrists, barbed wire around the neck, so that it couldn't move without being cut.
Oh God.
Face had been skinned alive, with the maggots eating the flesh.
Oh.
Another woman was chained by the neck, had a large open skull wound in her skull with maggots. Then they heard a noise coming from a chest, a large hope chest kind of thing, or in this case, no hope chest, right?
Yeah.
I know where we're going with this. This is like Pulp Fiction, the Gimp, right?
Worse. They open the chest or unlock they break the lock off, and they find a woman who has had her arms and legs broken multiple times and then bound to regrow in an unnatural shape, so that she would have to more like a crab, and also could be stuffed inside the box.
So she'd fit.
So she would fit.
What's in the box?
Yeah.
That's awful.
Allegedly, they found a young girl chained to a chair, physically unharmed. When they unbound her, she immediately ran to the nearest window, jumped through the glass, broke the glass, and fell to her death. Apparently, she had been forced to watch what was going on in there. Body parts everywhere. I mean, it's some pretty gruesome stuff.
God bless.
Yeah.
This is like The Hills Have Eyes / Chainsaw Massacre /
Saw.
Yeah.
Hostel.
Oh.
Hostel 2.
It's awful.
Saw 10.
All those.
Torture porn movie type stuff. I mean, this is really, really messed up stuff.
So, how sure are we of this? Is this documented by the fire brigade, or is this just legend that's been passed down?
Some of this is a legend. Some of this is from testimony from
oh my God,
the rescuers.
So let's say half is true.
Right.
Even at half, it's horrible.
Even if half of it is true, this makes her America's first female serial killer. And she gets the blame for all this. But I'm pretty sure, she couldn't have done this by herself.
The husband probably.
It's either the husband was doing it too.
Which he was a doctor, right?
Right?
Mm-hmm.
They were doing it together, or she may have forced other slaves to participate in this. Who knows? Because we didn't get any answers from her. We'll get to that. So Other slaves that were removed from the home were emaciated. They showed scars of the whip. They were wearing the spiked collars, like that you can't move your head or lay down or anything.
Right.
Some with spikes inward. Now, over the decades, accounts of this stuff have become more explicit. There was an author, Jean de Levine, I can say that one, wrote in his book Ghost Stories of Old New Orleans in 1946, alleged that LaLaurie had a sadistic appetite that seemed never appeased until she had inflicted on one or more of her black servitors some hideous form of torture, and claimed that those who responded to the 1834 fire had found male slaves stark naked, chained to the walls, their eyes gouged out.
Oh. I don't know.
I'm sorry.
What that was.
Were you surfing some website?
No. I was looking for the picture.
Oh.
Apparently,
I was gonna say.
they wanted to dance about it.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, so they had found eyes gouged out, still alive, while they were alive. Their fingernails pulled off by the roots. Others had joints skinned and festering. Great holes in their buttocks where the flesh had been sliced away. Their ears hanging by shreds, their lips sewn together. One story read she would stuff feces in their mouth and then sew the lips shut, which you couldn't do by yourself. Somebody's going to fight back, you know.
Oh.
Intestines pulled out and knotted around naked waists.
What?
Multiple stories of her cutting open and pulling people's guts out. There were holes in skulls where she would poke sticks and scramble brains while they were alive.
Lobotomy.
It's beyond that.
Beyond that.
I know that. But.
These are crimes on a level of the most brutal violence depicted in the most hardcore, like disturbing underground horror movies.
Say this is as bad as the what'd you call it, horror porn or
torture porn movies
of today. That they make movies about,
right.
Not the actual commission of those crimes.
Yeah,
and this is back in
this is 1834.
Yeah. Well, and you think about it, it's easier to hide stuff back then.
Yeah.
So
she probably
it probably did go on. I mean, if somebody can imagine it, somebody's done it.
But
dang. The judge who had entered the house, his name was Jean-Francois Cononge, or Cononge. I don't know if the E's sound or not. When the judge asked Mr. LaLaurie, about what they had found in the attic, he was told in an insolent manner, some people had better stay at home rather than come to others' houses to dictate laws and meddle with other people's business.
Well, the judge can dictate the law.
Well, and this was against the law in New Orleans.
It should be against law anywhere.
I mean, maybe not in Mississippi, who knows back then, but in New Orleans,
yeah, that's true. Yeah, for the slaves, yes.
Definitely illegal. Now, the discovery of what had happened, this news spread quickly, like that night. And
sure.
An angry mob of local citizens attacked the LaLaurie residence. And the quote from the day was, destroyed everything upon which they could lay their hands. The sheriff and his officers were called upon to disperse the crowd, but by the time the mob left, the property had sustained major damage with scarcely anything left but the walls. The mob actually set fire to the house that they had just caught fire and been put out.
Oh, wow.
So we're talking pitchforks and torches. When they heard how the slaves were being treated, they destroyed the house.
And that's not hard for me to believe, especially after what I know about the Crescent Hotel in Arkansas. And, after Dr. Baker was arrested there, the townspeople came up because, he would burn the bodies in the incinerator. And not even a proper cremation, just burn them in the incinerator, and that smoke would waft down the mountains because the Crescent sits at the top of that mountain, and it would just go down all through the town, and they'd smell it, And it took them 2 days to dismantle that. The townspeople came up and just on their own
Well, yeah.
took it upon themselves to dismantle it. So I could see them.
I think it was a lynch mob looking for her.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
And I'm sure.
Where did she go?
Well, we'll get to that. But so there is this is one of those legend parts, right?
Right.
That after the mob had burned the house down, locals would hear screams and stuff and cries coming from the house. So they just assumed this to be supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
But later discovered that there were actually other slaves kept underneath the house, and that was the sound of them screaming for help as they suffocated from smoke inhalation or died from starvation or dehydration.
Oh, dear God.
Oh my God.
No, that's that part. There's no evidence of that.
Well, I was
That's
going
part
to
of
say, they found the one woman chained to the stove. Where were the others?
in the
In
attic.
the attic.
But
Others had come out. There were
Oh, okay.
other
I'm
household
talking-
slaves that had come out. But they all had to be rescued. They weren't gonna. It's not like the LaLaurie's were gonna get them out.
right. Well, I was just curious because it sounded like she had a lot. And I mean, and then the one said that if they go in the attic, they don't come out. So I'm like, well, who was helping during the party? Like, where are all the other ones?
Yeah,
That
those
she
were
may
left
have had.
inside. They were rescued by the.
Oh, okay.
Now the rescued slaves were taken to a local jail for public viewing, not to humiliate them, but to show
This is what this crazy
this is what had
heinous
done.
person did.
Right, and by April 12th, 2 days later, around 4,000 people had gone to look
Oh my God.
to, in the words of the day, convince themselves of their sufferings. At least 2 that we know of rescued slaves later died in the weeks following the fire. And then when digging the yard of the mansion, more bodies were discovered, including that of a child.
Oh.
That could have been Leah. Like the legend said, the body was tossed down the well, the one that jumped off the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Madame LaLaurie, she managed to escape the public's wrath. While the mob was attacking the house, she managed to get away in a coach to the waterfront and get on a schooner.
I was going to say where she secured passage back to France
Secured
or something. Or,
passage first to Mobile, Alabama, where she was joined by Dr. LaLaurie. He caught up with her in Mobile, and then on to Paris, where she lived out the rest of her life in exile and escaped justice.
Oh, my God.
of course she did.
Accounts of her death vary. Some records say 1842, some 1849. Another author wrote that she lived till 1888 and died in a boar hunting accident. And then other people say she managed to return to New Orleans and live out her life as an underground serial killer. That
Yeah,
sounds like
that's kinda
BS.
wild.
I'm going to say she died in France either 1842 or 1849. So that's her. And that's the stuff that went on there. Now, the original house where all this took place, that didn't survive the mob. The outside wall is about all that was left after it was burned down. And the house at 1140 Royal, commonly referred to as the LaLaurie or the haunted house. That's not the same building that was occupied by the LaLaurie family.
Is it the same grounds?
Just the same grounds,
It's not the same house.
just not the same house.
Okay.
The original house was burned by the mob in 1834.
So they basically raised that one and put another
Pretty
one in its
much.
place.
And it remained in a ruined state, or stood there as a ruin, till 1838, when it was rebuilt by Pierre Trestur. Who that is. Anyway, and assumed the appearance that it has today.
Did they build it back like it was?
I think they built it back like it was, but there's a third story now that was added on at some point that was not there in the original house. Which is interesting because a lot of people, there's like one window on the third floor that they have archway windows, and one of them is bricked up, just one,
Oh, yeah, I see that.
And they like to tell people, "Oh, that's the one that the slave jumped out of during the fire."
They only had a second floor,
but the third floor didn't even exist when that happened. So that's BS. But they do say that every time they put glass in that window, it somehow gets knocked out. So they finally just bricked it up.
Oh wow!
Something supernatural.
Maybe. Now, over the decades, this house was used as a public high school, a conservatory of music, an apartment building, a regular apartment building for normal people, right? Then it was a refuge for young delinquents, a bar, a furniture store, and a luxury apartment building.
Oh.
It is now a private residence. And in April 2007, the building was purchased by the man, the myth, the legend, Nicolas Cage.
I read that.
So Nick Cage bought it in 2007 for $3.45 million. And then in 2009, he had some financial problems. And it ended up on the auction block at foreclosure and was valued at $3.5 million. But it ended up being purchased by a Regions Bank, by Regions Financial, for $2.3 million, who then sold it in 2010 to its current owner, Houston, Texas oil millionaire Michael Whalen. He bought it for $2.1 million. It is a private home that he uses when he's in town and is not open to the public.
Too bad.
Which seems like a waste to me.
Yeah.
Of a legendary haunted place.
Perfectly good haunted house going to waste.
That you could make a lot of money off of, but he holds parties there and stuff. He has a living caretaker. And then the caretaker's daughter is the housekeeper. And I think he does let people stay there, friends and stuff. And probably uses it during Mardi Gras. But his primary residence is
Isn't it like in the
Houston.
middle of town, like downtown area? Because it's the one that's like pretty iconic in how it looks.
It's in the French Quarter. It's
but it's at the French Quarter.
It's Royal, and I don't know the other intersection, but it's at Royal. It's at a corner.
Yeah, I see that.
Now, as far as the paranormal activity, you pretty much got everything reported over the years. You've got your... that is a really loud chain thing you got there.
Right.
You sound like a ghost rattling their chains.
It does, doesn't it? Sorry about that.
You've got your apparitions and ghostly figures. Many visitors claim to have seen ghostly figures and apparitions within the mansion. Often include the spirits of slaves, or described as African American. Moans and cries, disembodied voices, screams, moaning, crying. Normal stuff.
The usual.
The huge temperature fluctuations, cold spots, objects moving or disappearing when no one's in the house. That kind of thing.
Now, is this stuff that's been reported? Obviously, the guy who...
Well, I mean, people have lived in there. I mean, it's just been an apartment building before.
That's what I'm
it's
saying.
been a school.
Is it the people that have been there prior to the current owner?
Yeah, a lot of the stories come from that. But then there are also stories from tour guides, because this is on the walking, if you go to New Orleans and take one of those ghost city tours,
right?
There's a stop in front of this house, and people have reported things happening.
Hearing and seeing and such.
From the street, yeah. There's also feelings of unease and oppression, dread in certain areas of the house.
That's all of New Orleans. Just kidding.
I tell you what, last time I was on Bourbon Street, I felt a depressing feeling of dread.
Exactly.
I was like, why don't I have my pistol with me right now? This place is scary as hell.
It's on the corner of Royal and Governor Nichols Street.
Yeah.
And on its backside is a 2-star hotel called The Haunted.
Of course it is.
Of course. Of course. See, now there is a story that in 1894, it was in an apartment building, and one of the tenants in the apartments was viciously murdered under suspicious circumstances. his apartment had been ransacked. Nothing was taken. And his friends told the police that he had been complaining about spirits in the house and said a demon would eventually kill him.
Maybe it did.
Maybe it did. At one point, it was a all-girls school for African-American girls, ironically, after all, if they'd have known what had gone on in there. But many of the students reported being attacked by a phantom that would leave them with scratches and bruises. They referred to their attacker as that woman. But it wouldn't be her because she died in France.
Why couldn't she come back?
She can come back. You can haunt whenever you want.
That emotional attachment, that physical, spiritual attachment to the place.
There have been there's more than one. That's not just them that have been attacked. There's an aggressive presence in the house, which you'd have to be, considering the horrible. There's no way that didn't leave a stain on that ground.
Oh, for sure.
So this house is on every New Orleans ghost tour, and many tour guides and tourists have reported seeing stuff in windows, hearing sounds, moans or cries coming from it. Of course, who knows? I mean, it's New Orleans. But there's one tour guide who said that they were under a streetlight. The streetlight had been out for weeks. And then when she started to tell the story about Leah, when she said the name Leah, the streetlight flickered to life. And then when she said the name again, is that you, Leah, that it blew out. Like exploded.
Oh, wow.
I mean, but
yeah, I know.
Who knows, right? There's only been one televised investigation of this property. The current owner allowed, well, I guess it would have been filmed in 2018, but Jack Osborne and Katrina Weidman to do an televised investigation. Portals to Hell. It is season 1, episode 7, if you want to watch it. There were some instances. Jack and a cameraman were alone in a what is now a bedroom, but it's supposed to be in the area where the slave quarters were in the original house. This is also the place where everyone reports the dread feeling. The house is dope on the inside, though. It is cool.
I bet it is cool.
Some of these bedrooms are done this guy is having some crazy parties in this place.
Well, it's like when you can afford to buy that house, you can afford to decorate it pretty.
But it doesn't really look like he did. To me, it looks like Nicky Cage decorated it. There's lots of leopard prints.
Yeah.
Zebra prints.
Over the top type stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
He definitely left his mark on the property. But they were there. They picked up, actually got on camera, shadows moving. Like, how you've got a light reflection against the wall? They got shadows blocking that out. In that room, that particular room that used to be the slaves' quarters, the SLX camera, yeah. They had a chair where a thing appeared in it. A child-sized figure got mapped in. And it would interact a little bit, move, reach its hand up if you asked. And then Katrina put her hand there. There was a cold spot. Now, nobody showed the thermometer to prove there was a cold spot there, but
she said there was.
Well, I mean, I trust Jack.
Well, I trust Katrina.
And her too. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she's worked with Nick Groff and some of the,
right.
There was that. They also interviewed the. They used a ghost box, which I hate. Right. Which is it's sort of like a spirit, like SL7, but it's the one with the speaker on it that goes.
I can never understand.
I know.
I don't hear anything.
Yeah,
it's just murmuring and mumbling.
Yeah, I don't hear it.
To me,
maybe if you're standing over the top of it, because it's going to be very different when you're there.
Yeah, they're mic'd up. You've got camera. Who knows what's lost in translation? But I've never heard anything.
Actually get when we watch the show, it's like
it sounds spooky because
but that's all I get.
But they claimed there were intelligent interactions. What I heard was They were shown around the house by the living caretaker and her daughter. They both had stories about disembodied voices, shadow figures, doorknobs jiggling on their own when no one's there.
And this is the caretaker and her daughter?
And her daughter, yeah. Her daughter's the housekeeper, and the woman actually lives there on site. But the daughter says she won't go in the house after dark.
Really?
Alone, at least.
Yeah. So she believes there's something
They've
there.
both seen plenty of things.
Yeah.
But I say, if they say it is, and I 100% trust
yeah.
that. I mean, they live there. I mean,
They live there.
for the most part.
They also interview a woman named Annie. Now, Annie lived in the mansion as a child in the 1960s when it was an apartment building again, during one of its apartment times. And she tells about one day her family had been out, they come home, and her and her sister's beds were no longer up against the walls where they were. They'd been pushed to the middle of the room.
Interesting.
But nobody was home.
Yeah.
She also said they would hear screams in the night while they were trying to sleep. You know, they begged she talks about begging her father to let them sleep with the lights on, which he allowed it. Apparently they all saw stuff.
I was going to say, probably because Dad had heard or seen stuff.
Well, they
there,
saw
too.
stuff too. That she tells about how she saw the apparition of a young black girl sitting on the roof with her feet dangling off the side. Right, it would have been the same spot, but a story up from where Leah had leapt to her death. So I mean, she became very emotional, was crying and stuff, talking about some of these things.
Well, she believed it.
She believed it. I believe her. I definitely believe she believed it. And she also returned to the house in the 80s to make peace with the house, as she said. And upon entering, she was immediately attacked by something unseen and knocked to the ground.
No, I'm out. I'm done. I'm done at that point. I've had a lot of experiences. I've been touched. I've seen stuff. I've
That's
heard
another
stuff.
physical
I've
attack.
felt stuff. I've had stuff thrown at me, but if it's going to knock me to the ground, I'm done. I'm not playing in that sandbox anymore.
The caretaker showed a picture that one of the current owner's guests had taken when he was staying in this room. The room with the dread feelings, the room with the moving shadows. I don't know. You ever seen this Star Trek episode about tribbles? The trouble with tribbles?
Yes.
Little furry thing?
It looks like a tribble on the bed.
That orangish yellow.
Yeah, but it's brown. It's a brown
Furry thing.
shape that kind of almost looks furry.
Maybe it couldn't manifest all the way.
I don't know. Yeah, it was a very strange photograph. She also talked about how she would be in that room and she had seen the mattress depress as if something was laying on it when no one was there.
No, you can have the bed. I don't need it.
So that's about it. Unfortunately, no one else has
Been there.
been there.
Yeah.
Not
Not
recent.
even Zach.
Oh my God! They didn't let
They
Zach
didn't let
in.
Zach
I
have a
don't-
Zach
What the
attack.
hell is wrong with them?
You know that Zach has tried.
The hell is wrong with them?
Because they've done stuff in New Orleans.
Yeah, they
The
did.
cemetery, isn't that the one they did?
They did a lot of stuff. Like there was the whole Ghost of Katrina thing they did.
What's that big cemetery there?
Le Cemetery.
Oh my gosh! Just so that to get an idea, Bourbon Street's very long. We know this. This is
Well, I
a
didn't know that, but I believe
block south of Bourbon. Just one block south, like east of Bourbon Street.
Yeah, it's an interesting place. I've been twice.
I have never been to Nolans.
Ever been in New Orleans?
Never been.
That's sad. It's cool.
Been to a lot of other places.
St.
in
Louis Cemetery,
Louisiana.
Lafayette Cemetery. Maybe it's St. Louis. We know their cemetery is so interesting because everything's above ground. Because it's below sea level.
Yeah, because it's a swamp.
Yeah, it's below sea level. So
There's an awesome World War II museum. I haven't had a chance to go to it. It's a block off of Bourbon. The last time I was there, But yeah, I've eaten at the Palace Cafe. I've had frog legs at Antoine's. I've had the beignets from Café du Monde.
Mm-hmm.
So
With their chicory coffee.
So for this, I would
Gross.
say that if it is not haunted,
I'd be surprised if it wasn't.
man, it missed a good chance.
I think most places there are. Truly. Because of all of the things that went on in that city. There is so much reported
Voodoo.
about all the voodoo.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that's part of the culture there. I mean, the history of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a well-known thing. And, you know, I don't know. Also, with things like that happening, I think that's one of those things that ground is forever haunted now. Like, how do you...
Yeah, it's stained.
Who knows how you do the voodoo that you do?
I mean, that is, like, bad. That's awful.
Yeah.
That's, like, worse than some of the serial killers that you hear in, like, BTK and all that stuff you hear about
it's-
nowadays. That's
it's-
awful.
That's right up there with
It's
Dahmer and
messed up.
You know,
Yeah, it's Dahmer level stuff.
that's Dahmer.
Yeah, that is...
I don't know if she was eating them though.
Whether she was
Well,
or whether
damn.
she wasn't.
I mean, who cares?
I mean, you're cutting pieces off a butt. I mean, it's a fatty part. That's
when you're transposing or
that's
parts
the most jacked up thing I've ever heard.
like it's
I
old
mean, seriously, that's-
school.
But also, what really, matter of fact, it would disturb me more than that one though is the crab lady.
Yeah, that's something wicked.
Just think about that: breaking somebody's legs over and over, then letting them heal back in an unnatural fashion, then breaking them again until you got the shape that you wanted.
Oh my God.
Now, were these people dead when they found them in the attic?
Now, crab lady was alive. Face guy was supposedly alive. Not all of them were alive. They said the stench of death and
What about
blood
the-
I cannot
and rot
imagine.
was overpowering.
What about the
cannot
genitalia folks? I'm assuming they were probably dead.
Probably dead. Yeah, not sure on
I
that.
cannot imagine.
I'm sure intestine lady was
No way you
dead.
would survive that. Saw that in
Anybody-
the terminal list. You pull out somebody's intestines, ain't gonna make it.
Anybody that's lived in the South in the summertime in an attic.
That's what I don't get. Half of what was going on up there is true. It seems like the neighbors would have, and she was having all these parties and
How
stuff.
did she have that many people alive up
Also,
there?
why
That's
is
my thing.
she? Here's my question:
Well,
Is
she
she
wasn't
doing that
beating them, but-
Was she doing that somewhere else and then putting them up there? Because I don't. Well, why would you want to continue to mutilate
she
people
had
with the smell of all that?
torture devices were up there.
I mean, why would you? Oh, can you imagine the smell
No.
that she would have to?
Well,
Because surely this
as
is
long as
not
the
all
door is
happen.
sealed good and you've got vents to the.
But I'm saying
top
she's
of
the
the
one that's
roof.
got to be in there because you know this did not all happen at the same time.
Everybody stunk back then, though.
Well, maybe. Yeah,
That
but,
is true.
But putting shit in
It's true.
people's mouths.
Well, I don't know that's
that's over
true.
the top.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff of this stuff that the tales have become much more sensationalized and salacious over the years.
Well,
You
that
know-
seems pretty minor compared to you switching genitalias on folks.
Yeah,
And,
Well, it's
that's
kinda like-
probably the most sensational sounding one. But the crab lady, that's in all these stories.
So when you're
So that one,
probably legit.
when we talk
Legit.
about this, you think about the Bell Witch when we did the Bell Witch, and this is a story that probably was sensational at the time, and now over the 150 200 years, it's become this big and it's told over and over, and everybody has to add a little bit to it, and
Yeah.
eventually it's you have Stone Stew.
So what do we know? How do we know? Is there anything kept in like any sort of records?
well, we do know that
Police-wise?
Sure, there's court
the
records.
the slaves that were removed from the home, they were definitely emaciated. They had been starved. They had been beaten with whips.
So sad.
There were the bodies that were found.
The bodies.
There
okay.
were and then some of the tales, at least, of the rescuers
have been documented in the history,
have
like the
been
courts and
documented.
stuff like that.
Well, there was no court. She escaped. There's nothing to.
I didn't know if it was somehow written down by the police before the mob lynching or the mob and the.
It all
burn
kind
the
of
house
She
down
escaped
stuff.
the night of the
Yeah.
All of it.
So they could have
You
charged her, but she would have already been gone.
Oh, they would have charged her.
Yeah.
If the mob didn't get a hold of her and string her up.
Mm-hmm.
Because even despite the status of enslaved people back then, at least in New Orleans, there were some sensibilities about treatment of. I mean,
there was in a lot of places, but they
enforced it in New Orleans.
I was going to say, but it wasn't enforced. In Deep South, it just wasn't enforced.
But here it was, apparently.
There were laws
Obviously.
that said you cannot beat, you cannot, be horrible to your
Right.
slaves. But
It wasn't enforced.
It was not
in New
enforced.
Orleans. It was enforced, but it would take $300 fine and forced to sell, not taken away.
Yeah,
sell 9 slaves. So you still made money.
Yeah, it was.
So it was
messed up
kind
in
of
ways
a
like
and she not make any excuse or anything.
obviously not.
She did live at the time that the Haitian Revolution occurred, where enslaved folks rose up against the French in Haiti and killed a lot of slave owners. And it was a very violent revolution. There was the German Coast Revolt in Louisiana, where thousands of slaves rose up that killed several white people were killed. So she kind of grew up in this, plus the turbulent times. I mean, where she lived was 3 different countries.
Yeah.
And, but I mean, that doesn't excuse anything. There's just trying to find some sort of insight into the mentality of why someone would do that. But ultimately she was
I think we're still at that place.
nutbag.
We're trying to figure out why all these people do that. But yeah,
I mean, and who knows
nutbag.
I didn't really see what the second husband died of.
She killed him.
But she got his money. I didn't see it was just an illness that killed the first husband.
Right.
Plus she inherited all her father's stuff.
But to say, is that how she got her money? Inheritance and then rich husbands?
Just rich husbands and her family inheritance. I don't know if they sold the plantation, but there were other family members. At least a couple of her kids joined her in France. So
That's crazy.
I'd
I'd like to go. I wish they'd let you in.
Yeah, I mean,
That would be a cool place to visit, but I don't know how long I would visit. It's got to feel dark when you get there,
Oh.
I can only imagine.
I'd definitely go back to New Orleans, but to eat.
But I mean, it's so funny because when you see the house, it's a very nondescript looking. I mean, it looks just like a French Quarter, like
Right.
every other,
Like all the others.
because it's painted gray,
Yeah.
according to these pictures. So it's really pretty.
Didn't
I'm
used
sure
to be
it's-
great.
I'm sure it used to be all kinds of stuff.
Either Nicky Cage or Mr. Whalen painted it gray. It used to be red. Or
Oh,
red
really?
Brick, like standard brick color.
Yeah.
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 Well, man, that was a good one.
That is really cool.
But God, how dark.
Now you said that
You're
there's
right. You do bring the trigger warnings.
now there's a show, right? American Horror Story.
American
or something,
Horror
where
Story season 3 is Kathy Bates plays
Her.
Madame LaLaurie.
Delphine LaLaurie. Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't seen it.
With much artistic liberties taken. I'm sure.
Probably. I haven't seen
I
it.
haven't seen it either, but I was just
I
curious.
actually, is that Coven?
Yeah, I think
I
so.
watched that one.
I wanted to watch it in preparation, but I realized it was the entire season.
Yeah, it's an ongoing
So I was like,
thing.
Yeah.
I'll
I bet
I'll
she
check it.
played I bet she did a good job.
I mean, who's gonna?
She did.
Yeah, she's good at everything.
She really is. She's very talented. Well, let's go to New Orleans. I just want to go.
Yeah, let's eat.
Yes.
That's what I'm about.
I want a
the food.
beignet.
I want the food.
Practice my French.
Some of the best food in the country
Francais.
right there. Only at 6 hours away. I mean, 6-7 hours. It's not that far away.
No.
No.
Hell, you can only get to
Tequila
like
Ocho?
half of Texas that way.
Tequila Ocho for me.
Lagavulin.
Delicious. Lagavulin 16 for Alicia.
Alicia?
Delicious.
Alicious, yes.
Rare breed.
Huh?
Wild turkey, rare breed.
Wild turkey.
Can't beat this.
Good.
Jimmy Russell's finest.
All right. Remember when you go see the YouTube videos that you like and subscribe, punch that subscribe button. It's good for us. feeds the YouTube algorithms.
If you don't subscribe, the spirit of Madame LaLaurie will come after you and do horrible things to you.
It's awful. End up a crap.
That's bad.
It's so bad. Have a good night.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Let the good times roll. Laissez la LaLaurie.
Gooks Tigers.
Go, sir.
Really?
Go.
I hate that.
Go.
I hate that every EAUX put it on the end of everything.
It's cute.
Like that car wash. Luke's car wash.
Hello. They're from 6.5 hours to New Orleans from here.